Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the full card of fights for UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Daukaus. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card. So in our first fight, we have in the lightweight division, Sayles versus Jourdain Leavitt. How season right here is Sayles is the more well-rounded fighter to me. Seems like Leavitt only really has grappling, and we don't know how good his grappling necessarily is. But Sayles on the other side has been inactive, and he is coming off a loss where he was thoroughly dominated in the grappling. Not to say that Leavitt is as good as his last opponent necessarily, but I see a weakness in his grappling. But you could say Sayles is a more well-rounded fighter, so he can take it in more places and win. But due to that inactivity and due to the nature in which Sayles had lost his last fight, I'm going to lean to Leavitt in this one to be able to get it to the ground, control him on the ground, and stop him late in the third round. So in this fight, I got Jourdain Leavitt via third round submission. Now to our next fight, we have in the heavyweight division, Mays versus Parisian or Parisians. Either way, whether it be Parisian or Parisian, it is what it is. Mays versus Parisian, you got two big heavyweights here. Parisian seemingly should be the more complete heavyweight, but his cardio and just a lot about him is just not there. Cardio is freakishly horrible. He needs to work on that. Whether it be a mental thing or whether it's some genetic or something, he needs to work on that cardio because that cardio is horrendous. Now I feel like Mays, just a more active heavyweight, better gas tank. I don't like how he reacts to pressure, and he'll easily gives up the front foot or goes on the back foot so easily. But I feel like Parisian, like I said, can't really push it that much, maybe for one round or maybe for half a round. But from then, he just turns into a tired guy that's out there barely hanging around. I think it's going to be a case where Mays is going to be more active and Parisian is going to slow down. So fight between two heavyweights who are pretty disappointing at this given point, but Mays just being the less disappointing one, and being having the higher gas or the better gas tank, or at least having a gas tank, which Parisian don't have at the moment for whatever reason, and being able to just outwork him if he gets tired and beat him to a decision. So in this one, I have Mays via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the women's featherweight division, Pennington versus Chiasson. So Chiasson's back at 45. High season right here between Chiasson versus Pennington. I think Chiasson showed a pretty good promise to her at 145, and then she cut down to 135 and looked good early, but then faded and just looked mediocre. But hey, maybe going to 145, she'll reawake what she showed is a 145er coming off the Ultimate Fighter. But ultimately, I can't lean to what ifs. I lean to what recency and what I've seen. And Chiasson, I see a lot of areas where she's lacking, like in the grappling, off her back, activity, all that side, but not really generating much power. I feel like Pennington has been there with women that hit much harder than Chiasson. I feel like Pennington will be the heavier-handed fighter. I feel like she'll be able to control her in the clinch, be the more experienced, be the veteran out there, be able to take her to the mat, take some time off the clock, work on the ground, work her against the cage, and just simply be the one looking to press, looking to tie her up, looking to hold on to her, latch onto her, drag her down, and not allow Chiasson to work. And Chiasson being far too comfortable getting control out there and not doing enough. So in this fight, I got Pennington via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the featherweight division, Jourdain versus Ewell. So Jourdain versus Ewell, how I see this one. Ewell has some pretty slick hands. He's coming up to 145 from 135 now, so speed man probably be even crazy. He might have a good sneak chance to catch Jourdain with something. And Jourdain can be open a lot of time and is very unorthodox. So those unorthodox stuff, it can give you openings, find openings that your opponent that they're not used to. They can find openings that should not be there on your game because, like I said, you're so unorthodox that you leave gaps and different openings that you could be cracked on. So pros and cons, double-edged sword with his style. But I'm gonna lean to Jourdain in this one. Like he's been around with bigger featherweight because Ewell obviously coming up. I don't think Ewell's gonna be a small 145 at that because he was pretty long. So put some muscle on, probably be a decent size 145. Matter of fact, might look like the bigger 145 out there. But ultimately, I think the path to beat Ewell has already been put out there so many times. Take away the legs and take him down and beat on him. I don't think Jourdain's going to be so ready to just follow a blueprint because he's a guy that's go out there and fight his fight. So he's not necessarily a guy that necessarily goes out there and game plans. But I definitely think he will batter those legs, take away some of the boxing of Ewell, let his hands go. So take away the legs, then come up top. That then eventually works him to the ground, drags him there, and TKOs him in the third round. So in this fight, I got Jourdain via third round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the women's flyweight division, Sijara Eubanks versus Melissa Gatto. And how I see this one right here is Melissa Gatto is a very solid talent and, has some pretty decent wins, but has not been the most active. Just came back and had a win over probably the easiest money in the whole division in Victoria Leonardo, and did not look necessarily great in that fight on the feet or on the ground as she's supposed to look on the ground. And I think Sijara Eubanks is just a bigger woman, stronger woman. Been in there more tested recently. I think at 125, Eubanks beat just about every woman in this division that's not Valentina or Andrade. I think she beat just about every single one. She has literally just beat them. She beat Modafferi already. She beat Laura Murphy already. So that's two of the better women in the division. She beat them pretty handily. And I don't think she'll really struggle with most other women in this division is right now. So going there with Gatto, I feel like Eubanks is the bigger, stronger fighter. I think grappling just as good as Gatto, if not better. And she should be able to control the top position. On the feet, Gatto's striking game is very unfleshed out. I do worry about Eubanks' cardio, but I feel like she could just dominate this one and not have to necessarily work so hard to beat Gatto. So like I feel like she could have a more fleshed out game, can be hurting Gatto on the feet. On the ground, she could dominate on the ground, dominate position. And I think she beats her to a thorough decision. So in this one, I have Sijara Eubanks via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the heavyweight division, Justin Tafa versus Harry Hunsucker. Honestly, fight between Tafa versus Hunsucker. So some people say, oh, Hunsucker is this, Hunsucker is that. Well, I don't think most people, nobody really high on Hunsucker, but people that kind of trying to lean to Hunsucker is like, oh, he has some submission wins. But he literally submitting gas station employees and guys that work at Torrid and whatnot. Like that's a woman plus size store. I don't know. Either way, these guys that should have no reason fighting. That's what he beat them, submitting. Guys for mediocre competition. And the moment, every time he step up, he looked like mediocre competition himself. I'm not saying Tafa is such a beast or anything, but I think Tafa is just a more qualified heavyweight. I think he has the better striking, more power, more polish, and more fortitude. I don't think Harry Hunsucker's grappling game is anything to really even mention, to be honest. Probably still more than Tafa's grappling game, but nothing to be mentioned about. I think Tafa was able to find him and put him out within that first round. So in this one, I got Justin Tafa via first round TKO. Now for our next fight, we have in the bantamweight division, Raoni Barcelos versus Victor Henry. And how I see this one right here, so both guys are like the same age, pretty much age, month, and everything. Days, they basically the same age, really like born on the same day, I think. Oh, not the same day, but like so it's so damn close. That's all I'm saying. Barcelos versus Henry, same height, reach, I think almost similar. But how I see this fight, I feel like Victor Henry presents a good style, very underrated fighter, and definitely going to bring him a good test. But I think his style going to play into Barcelos. Henry like a guy that likes to, stay in front of you because, typically you stay in front of a guy, you're not backing up from him, you're not laying off them, allowing them to breathe and allowing them to, fight and be pretty. You're just constantly in their face, constantly touching them, constantly working them. In most cases, most guys are going to break to that. It's not even the case of he just in your face, he constantly doing 100 punches, but he constantly in your face, maybe doing like 4 or 5 strikes here and there. But constantly, putting something up there, and that's time. Like I said, he's not no Kobe Covington. He's not one of those guys that's going to throw 1,000 strikes at you. So he's not that guy that's going to super drain you, but he will be in your face. If you can't deal with that pressure, can't deal with that constant presence of somebody in your face, that will mentally break you and wear you down. But all that being said, good style, got some solid jiu-jitsu, solid wrestling, but I feel like Barcelos is literally better in every area than Henry. I feel like he has the faster hands, the more technical striker, the heavier hands, better wrestler, and I think he can get the better of the grappling as well. And like I said, with the wrestling, get the top position and have no issue with Henry. Barcelos is like a several-time state champion in wrestling or whatever the case may be. He has some impressive accolades. So all I'm saying, the guy, you might look at him as a striker a lot of cases. His wrestling is just as good. His grappling is just as good. You might try to look at the Timur Valiev fight, but Valiev is a guy for sure. You could bet money. You could bet against me, and I would win that money pretty easily. That Timur Valiev is going to be a guy that's going to be in that top 5 probably by the end of 2022, if not fighting for the title. Don't see him winning the title, but I can see him fighting for the title by the end of 2022. The guy's a beast. And Barcelos had a competitive fight with him. It might not have been the performance y'all were expecting from me. I might have overlooked Timur Valiev. I picked Barcelos, but I knew exactly who Timur Valiev was. But either way, Timur Valiev is a beast, so nothing lost losing to him necessarily outside of some time because you got to build your wins back up. We're going against Henry, I feel like Henry's going to be a style. He's not going to be hard to find. He's going to be there to be hit. He's going to be there to trade. And Barcelos going to have the fast hand, land the cleaner shots. And when he wants to mix it up, he'll mix it up, and I think he'll find success there. Competitive fight through 2. The events that in that third round, Barcelos started to really land consistently, land flush, and I think he puts him out in that third round. So in this fight, I got Raoni Barcelos via third round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in our prelim headliner, oddly enough, Meerschaert versus Dustin Stoltzfus in the middleweight division. How season right here, I just feel like Meerschaert's literally better in every area. I feel like Meerschaert's the better wrestler, the better grappler, the better striker. Stoltzfus has some power every now and then, but he's not no polished striker. He got, what's his name? He got struck by a jiu-jitsu world champion with like a 30-day kickboxing class. So the guy, like, what can I really say about Stoltzfus? I think he only got to the UFC off of injuring his opponent. It wasn't even like kind of like a freak injury, but ultimately, Stoltzfus is a solid guy, but I just don't think he presents anything to Meerschaert. I feel like Meerschaert could beat him every area. I think he will. I think he constantly pressure, constantly in the face, constantly tagging, constantly working him, smothers him, overwhelms him, and then taps him out in that second round. So in this fight, I got Gerald Meerschaert via second round submission. Now to our next fight we have in the featherweight division, Darren Elkins versus Cub Swanson. This is our first fight on the main card. Yeah. So you got two veterans of the game, Elkins versus Swanson. How I see this one. I feel like Swanson's the more fleshed out fighter. Elkins would definitely bring that dog, though. He'll constantly be a face, constantly trying to wrestle, kind of work. But I feel like Cub Swanson will be a land clean counters in there, be the stuff to wrestling for the most part, and just land the flusher strikes. I don't think he stops the damage Elkins, but I definitely think he hurts him a couple times. And I think he wins this fight landing the flusher shots where Elkins is trying to get some work, trying to get some control time, but not really doing a lot on the ground, not really getting the fight to the ground as much as he needs to. And then meanwhile, Cub Swanson's landing clean counters, landing clean combinations, and landing the flush shots. But Elkins going, he's gonna make it competitive, he's gonna make it tough, but Swanson's ultimately gonna win, by being more active and landing the more damaging shots and really mostly the only damaging shots where Elkins, like I said, is landing, trying to pressure him and trying to wrestle him, maybe land a good shot here and there, but mostly the offense of actual striking will be Swanson. So in this fight, I got Cub Swanson via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the lightweight division, Diego Ferreira versus Mateusz Gamrot. And how I see this one right here. So I think Diego Ferreira presents an interesting challenge for Mateusz Gamrot. I feel like maybe a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, when Diego Ferreira was winning, on that winning streak, he was beating like Maribek Taisumov and Rustam Khabilov. I feel like that Diego Ferreira would beat Mateusz Gamrot is of right now, or is of what we've seen. But Mateusz Gamrot is only getting better, and I feel like Diego Ferreira is starting to plateau again. I'm not really seeing that improvement. He's a 36-year-old, which is not that the greatest age as a lightweight. So age is not on his side. Momentum is not on his side. He's on 2-fight losing streak to roughly, you could say, grapplers like in Beneil Dariush. Dariush is a full well-rounded fighter. He can compete with the best strikers, compete with the best grapplers, beat most of the best grapplers, matter of fact. So yeah, that's what losing going to Gregor Gillespie. So, but both cases it was heavily due to grappling. Now you go in there with a younger fighter in Mateusz Gamrot who's gonna be game, be active, be able to push a high pace on him, similar to what Gillespie did. I don't feel like his wrestling is as good as Gillespie's, but his grappling is much better. So he'll be able to avoid a lot of the sticky situations that Gillespie got caught up in, and be able to ride the top position similar to what Dariush was able to do in their fight. But I do see this as a very competitive fight. I think Ferreira will be game. He won't be lay down for no one. But I just feel like Gamrot will be able to outposition him, outwork him, and outgrind him and beat him to a decision. So in this one, I have Mateusz Gamrot via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the bantamweight division, Rafael Assuncao versus Ricky Simon. And how I see this one right here is highly off momentum. Assuncao, people already kind of figured out his game, already know his game. The man's been around a long, long time. People know what he's doing, know what he looks to do. And also, guys just fading. I feel like Ricky Simon's coming on. I feel like he can control the grappling, whether the fight goes to the ground or not. I'm not saying he's going to dominate Assuncao in grappling or beat him in grappling, but I feel like he could get takedowns, which can generate points, take some time off the clock. Now I feel like on the feet, Ricky Simon is the more polished boxer. Assuncao really looking for those, really about timing and movement and landing those big winging shots, where Simone landing the tighter, cleaner boxing shots. I feel like it's a case where Ricky Simone's gonna be able to control the grappling, whether it goes to the ground or not. Land his jab, stay cleaner, stay more technical, stay tighter with his defense and his offense. Land those flusher shots. And I think he beats Assuncao to a decision. So in this one, I have Ricky Simone via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the women's strawweight division, Amanda Lemos versus Angela Hill. And I see them right here between Lemos versus Hill. I think Lemos presents a good, I don't know where I'm going with this one, but either way, to get to the point of this one, Hill's a solid fighter, but always chokes in the big one, and this is one of the big ones. Lemos is a hot rising prospect with solid striking. So it's almost a striker versus striker matchup, unless Hill try to make it something more or try to extend her. So I feel like the best thing for Hill to do is try to extend Lemos. What I've been said, I don't feel like Hill's gonna go out there and fight the right strategy to extend Lemos. I feel like she'll go out there, just be herself, try to let her hands go, let her offense go, and not, fight strategically out there. And that's why she got 10 losses. I mean, she's making improvements, and also she did start late and she did jump right into the deep end. So that's another reason why she got a lot of losses. But the reason, it's been the same thing. Like, big moments she chokes. This is a big moment for her. And I think, again, she's going to flatten. I feel like the odds could be a lot closer, and this is going to be a very much a winnable fight for Hill. But, again, she's going to go out there, strike, let her hands go. And she's going to feel a lot of that power of Lemos. And Lemos going to be able to hurt him every single time they get in exchanges. Hill going to be wearing those shots a lot more than Lemos will be. Hill really don't got no power like that. I mean, she could hurt some people. She could drop some people. She could sneak up on you some power, but she ain't got no power that sit on you power. She only got it like Lemos does, and Lemos more explosive, got that sitting power on her. I feel like Lemos going to hurt them every time they exchange, and then Hill's going to start to get a little bit timid, take the back foot, and Lemos going to let off some offense. And that's pretty much be the theme of the fight. Hill kind of getting going, and Lemos lands something big, puts on the back foot, presses her, lands some shots. And then I think as the fight goes on, Hill will constantly get broken down with each round. Then I think in the third round, Lemos puts her away via TKO. So in this fight, I got Amanda Lemos via third round TKO. Now to our co-main event, we have in the welterweight division, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Belal Muhammad. And I see this one right here. So Belal Muhammad presents a good style, got some good cardio. He's going to push the pace. He's going to constantly try to work solid wrestling. But I feel like his offensive takedowns aren't necessarily anything that Stephen Thompson hasn't dealt with or been able to stuff and get back to his feet and work on. So I feel like Stephen Thompson going to be able to address the wrestling of Belal Muhammad, address the pace, and use his footwork, use his striking acumen, and really draw Belal Muhammad into a lot of counters and a lot of blitzes, and have Belal Muhammad just a step or two behind the whole fight. But Belal Muhammad, fighting put up a good effort. Maybe he's carrying like one takedown in there, but ultimately I feel like the story of the fight is going to be Belal Muhammad trying to cut Thompson off, trying to catch him, trying to work on him, trying to get him to the inside and land shots, or trying to land kicks. But every single thing he does, you're responding pretty quickly with a counter. And like I said, it's always be a step behind. And Stephen Thompson just being too fast, too elusive, and walking Belal Muhammad to counters. And then when he does hurt him or catch him guard, landing combinations, chain them together. But Belal Muhammad stand tough, digging deep, surviving, standing in the fight. But ultimately, at most, is stand in the fight. I don't ever see him really getting no edge or advantage in the fight, but I do see him sticking in the fight, making it the fight. But Thompson just being too sharp, too crisp, and too elusive. So in this fight, I have Stephen Thompson via decision. Now to our main event, we have in the heavyweight division, Derek Lewis versus Chris Daukaus. And I see this fight right here between Lewis versus Daukaus. You got Daukaus coming up, he like riding some fast momentum and getting fast tracked. You got Lewis coming up a very bad loss where he got dominated and picked apart by Ciryl Gane, the current interim champion of the heavyweight division. But yeah, I feel like this fight gonna play out typically like a Derek Lewis fight. And also, Chris Daukaus, he might ride some good momentum. Like he is riding some good momentum right now. Daukaus is riding some good momentum right now. But in the last fight, I feel like that was the most disappointing victory or disappointing fight of him I've seen in the UFC so far. He was getting outstruck by Shamil Abdurakhimov, getting caught with check hooks, getting outboxed, getting outstriked, getting kicked up. Eventually, he was able to catch and counter and land and hurt. Not hurt Daukaus, but they would hurt and finish. He hurt Abdurakhimov. Then I think in the following round, he finished Abdurakhimov off. But either way, it was not looking necessarily good. Yes, you got to finish, and ultimately, it's like no matter how the fight went, ultimately the end result, you got to finish, and now you could go back home, retrain, and see what mistakes you made, and like say act like it never happened, or you make it like it never happened because you go back and you resand it. People might go back and look at the highlights. Just look at the highlights in the future, and some people might dig deeper, like, wait, this guy was getting picked apart by this guy, or this guy was losing. But as far as highlights and the record, all you're gonna see is that he won. You're not gonna see that adversity he faced in that fight. And that adversity is another reason why I'm gonna lean to Lewis. And let me again say something about Lewis. Lewis has never lost a fight in the UFC due to decision. So in Daukaus, I don't think he has the skills necessarily to submit Lewis or the wrestling or grappling combination to really submit Lewis. He has skills to at least have some semblance of success there, maybe. But ultimately, I feel like Daukaus is kind of set to a knockout victory or knockout TKO victory, whereas Lewis can knock him out, TKO him, or decision him. I feel like, well, I'm saying two pass packs to victory for Lewis with one passable path. I'm saying passable. One possible path for Daukaus, two possible paths for Lewis. Lewis don't lose decisions historically, only finishes. So if Daukaus, you're going to bet on Daukaus, you got to bet on finish. Because you bet it on goes the distance, it ain't going to happen. But you can bet on that for Lewis. But ultimately with this one, I feel like it's going to be similar to a lot of Lewis's fight. Daukaus is probably competitive, but Daukaus probably edging him, probably landing more shots. Probably at points, Lewis reacting weird to shots like he does, turning around, and the judges and the bettors and live odds shift to like a -1,000 for Daukaus or +1,000 for Lewis as he starts to, like say, react weird to shots. But eventually, if fight gets later, Daukaus gonna start to wear down a little bit, get a little bit lax out there, drop his hands some. Defense is not gonna be there. And Lewis gonna find an opportunity, explode, crack him, and finish him off in that 4th round. I think that's gonna be the case. It's gonna be a typical Derrick Lewis fight. Give up some rounds, look bad, find that moment where his opponent is having a mental lapse, crack him, put him to sleep, hump the ground, call it a night. So in this one, I got Derrick Lewis via 4th round TKO. And that concludes my fight predictions for the 4 card of fights for UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Daukaus. And as always, thanks for watching. But wait, before you go, if you want to maximize your bets, maximize my predictions, any of that or all of that and all in between, check out bookies_dev on IG. And again, bookies_dev on IG. Peace.